Hey folks, Tony Lockhart here, and we're throwing some tumblers in the pottery today. So a tumbler is basically a small cylinder, maybe a little bit of a roundness to it, and it's pretty tiny. This will shrink in both of the firings, so it should hold between 8 and 10 ounces. What I'm doing is I have 3/4 of a pound of clay, which is 12 ounces. I'm going to basically throw these into little cylinders. Nice little tap center. Kind of a tap center. And then try to center the clay. I like to clean it off with my thumbnail. Go ahead and drop the well. Maybe use a little bit of water. Once I get to that bottom point, I'm going to drag my thumbs outwards towards the outer diameter. Okay, use my thumb and I'm going to press down on my thumb to compress the floor. Clean off my hands. I'm going to get this thumb in underneath, and that'll clean up the exterior diameter. Start to see some of the clay pop up. It's getting a little dry, so I'll put more water, and then I'm going to bring in, and I'm going to start to do my first pull upwards. I'm going to bring in that clay. Fast wheel, slow hands. Really in no rush to do this. Okay. So I like to throw loosely, so you can see that it's really off center and wobbly. So that's why you really got to take your time if you do it. If you throw it like this. Here's my first pull. Outside hands are a little bit lower than inside hands. Not using my knuckle since it's such a tiny thing. Just using my fingers. Might need to trim off a little bit because I went a little too thin on one of the corners here. So just gonna peel that off. A little too loose. And I'll just do this final pull. That lip, a little bit of a compress. Try to even it out just a bit. So now I've got a rib and I'm pressing downwards at the floor, removing any excess clay. So help me get a nice 90-degree angle on the inside. Go back in and use the rib on the outside to compress the walls. So I'm pushing outwards with the hand on the inside, holding the rib nice and steady against the pot. Got my wrist against the splash pan so my hand doesn't move too much. Now I'll sponge out the inside. I'll take a tool and clean off the bottom parts. Do 2 passes. First one is just to clean off any of that excess, and then I'll wire off, and then I'll clean up one last time. Before I do that, I'll take a piece of leather, round off that lip. I'm going to put my index finger into the side of the pot and press outwards as well. That gives a slightest hint of like a curve. That should be nice and comfy if you drink from this cup. The slightest little curve outwards. Okay, slow the wheel down real slow. Go ahead, slice off with a wire tool. I'm going to go back in one more time to clean up any excess. These will be ready for me to thumb off once they dry and I can remove them from the bat. I also like to clean off the bat as well, so it helps it dry just a little bit more quickly. And then I think we're okay. I can put this on the shelf. So there we go. Nice little tiny tumbler. So let's throw one more. So I'm making a series of these cups because they're going to go to my students. I teach an advisory class, so it's basically like a college preparation or college readiness class. And these kids are seniors and they're all going off to college, so I figure why not make them a nice piece of pottery. I've known most of these kids for about 4 years, taught all of them, so it's like really fun. So this will be a fun little surprise for them as their Christmas gift. Alright, so kind of centered. Just going to clean off that corner with my thumb. Just going to drop that well. So I'm currently using a mixture of a bunch of leftover clays. Basically, I recycled all of the reclaimed clay in my slop bucket, so it has everything. Got speckled buff, a little bit of B mix in there. Got some Laguna clay B3. I think there's an electric brown. There's just so many different clays. I don't even know what this is going to look like when I fire it, and I'm going to do a test firing on one cup. With some underglaze writing on it, because I want to make sure that it fires properly to maturity. But I would say during the 17-18 year, I had about 5 different clay varieties, all cone 5, all oxidation fired, and it was kind of fun. However, it's just really tough to manage the studio when you have so many different clay bodies and when you do this as a hobby like I do. So I'm currently working through another sample pack of light clays. I'm trying to find the ideal one. So I'm gonna go away from red clay for a couple of years, but I want something that's kind of lightly speckled but not too white like porcelain. There's a little bit of character to it. Porcelain would be ideal. I mean, not porcelain, stoneware would be ideal, especially since it's a lot cheaper. go. So this one was thrown a little bit better than the last one. Guess that shows how practice makes you proficient. I'm gonna go back in here with the rib tool, compress that floor, get that 90-degree angle on the inside so I don't waste any clay. Go back in and compress the walls, give it a little bit of a belly, gives a little bit more volume. Alright. Go in and sponge out that water that I don't need in there. So this whole process is nice and methodical. I've got my tools laid out in a very convenient way. Try to do the same steps over and over again so I don't really need to think about it. Try not to mess with the pot too much. Even though there's a little piece of clay stuck to it, I'm just going to leave that and not worry about it because I'll just get that later. The whole idea is you just try to repeat the process over and over again. You get a lot better at it. Okay, you're going to wire this off. Then clean this one last time. You can actually get that little piece of clay off of there. Actually, it's a little too soft. I'm not going to touch it. Okay. Last little scrape. And then I'll just clean this off right before removing it. So there we go. Many thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this and found this useful. Have a good day. Thanks.